Welcome to the Building a Better You podcast, presented by the Garner Chamber of Commerce Young Professionals. I'm Nick Spindler with Community of Hope Ministries.
And I'm Chris Morgan with Grow Local Realty.
The goal of this podcast is to help young professionals develop and grow into successful business people in their communities.
In each episode, we will talk with local business leaders to provide strategies and tips to help our listeners.
So let's dive right in. We have in studio with us today Nicole Barone from Davis Insurance and Financial Services again. Welcome back. And this time we are so happy she brought along her husband Joe Barone with her. So welcome to the podcast.
Yeah! The crowd goes wild.
But we are excited to have y'all. This is going to be fun. And we brought you guys in. Today, we are going to talk about goal setting.
Yay!
Yeah, everybody's favorite thing, I know. But this episode...
Is it really everybody's favorite thing?
No.
It's not, but it's very important.
I hate goal setting. But that's why we're going to talk about it. And this episode is going to be dropping right before the new year. So we're all going to be thinking about what are our goals for the new year, our New Year's resolutions. I absolutely hate them. I despise them. But like you said, Joe, they're necessary.
That's right.
Well, and hey, maybe some people can come out of this today with some little nuggets that make goal setting a little bit easier or maybe a little bit more manageable and enjoyable.
Right. You know, you might set baby goals. You might set medium-sized goals. You might set bigger goals. But the point is that we should all be setting goals. And so... clearly, you guys think that. So let's just start off with this question. Why is it important to set goals?
I think goals are really important because it's important to strive for something, right? And set yourself up for success. When you set up goals, it's very easy to put yourself on the right track, right? Because now you know you're not all over the place. You have a clear focus, and now you can accomplish it, achieve it, whatever.
Absolutely.
Yep. And I mean, if you'll see, you can tell that we're married because basically, exactly along the same vein, goal setting is, it gives you something to work towards.
Yes.
And it kind of gives you an outline that will help you get from where you're at to where you want to be, right?
Yeah.
But the question does it have to be business related?
It can be everything, right? So, like, more or less, you can have a lot of business goals if you are a, entrepreneur or you're just working at a company, right? You can be like someone like me that just works for a company, and basically I go in and now I set goals to help better myself so I can grow in the company and figure out how I fit in. So it's a lot of different stuff, right? You can organize and set goals for everything in your life, whether or not I want to, personal and business or... whatever, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think that you have to have goals professionally and personally. I mean, it's kind of, if you have one without the other, you're kind of lacking a certain balance because either you're putting all the energy into your professional goals and now you're, not pouring back into that personal bucket.
Yes.
And
I like that.
You need to kind of pour back into yourself sometimes to be able to continue to strive and succeed at work. And setting personal goals helps you to do the things that you need to do to relieve stress, to, get things accomplished so you don't feel stressed out and overwhelmed in your personal life. I mean, goal setting is very important.
Yeah, and I have heard it said, and I don't know who actually said it, but that goals are just dreams with a deadline.
That's a good one.
And, so we can have all these things we want to achieve, but if we don't actually make goals, if we don't actually put that deadline on them, like, are we actually going to do it?
Probably not.
Like, I'll just be real. Like, I've had a goal for, like, a year and a half to lose some weight. Guess what I haven't done? Lost any weight. You know why? Because I haven't really sat down and made an actual goal, an actual plan of how I was going to get there. And so it's just this dream I have right now.
Exactly.
And I know that I need to set a goal to actually achieve it. I'm just too stubborn to do it. But, I think we all have things we want to achieve, whether personally or in our business. And if we don't actually take the time to make a plan, to make a deadline, put it on paper, they're just going to be dreams that we never see achieved.
Part of this is how do you set them, right?
Yeah.
You look at certain things that you want to do, and with you, I guess in this example, and when everyone's, hearing this, it's going to be around that time. What's the number one thing? I want to lose some weight.
Yep.
Right? So you have this one goal. It's just, you got to start setting up the little mini goals to accomplish that. But it's hard because it's hard to have that drive, right? Mm-hmm. And that's another thing, is that drive to finish it. Because not only are you working, not only are you trying to hang out with friends and family, but now I got to also fit in a couple runs every week. I barely have enough time to read a book or play some video games, so it gets tough. It's really hard to do. So I get it. But it's just that once you set your mind to it, you got to be like, okay, enough's enough. Because guess what? Here's one of my favorite sayings. You are the only one that's stopping you.
Yes.
I love it. It's all about the mindset.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about how do you set these goals, I think one thing that's often missed is you have to have a clear finish line. Let's just say me, I want to lose weight. Well, what does that mean?
Exactly.
How much do you want to lose? Where do you want to get? Or, you might, be in business and say, well, I want to grow my business this year. Well, what does that mean? Do you want to double your business? Do you want to have X number of clients? Do you what you need to set a clear finish line, because if it's just vague, how are you ever going to know if you got there? And so I think when we're talking about setting goals, step one should be clearly defining what does that finish line look like.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's super important, because once you have that end game, what that looks like for you defined, you can break that down into smaller steps. And that's the key, like you said, the mini goals, right? So when you're setting your goal, really, once you have that end game in mind, you can break it down into its smaller parts. So if you have a goal that you want to accomplish within a year, you then need to break it down and say, okay, what do I need to do month to month to accomplish this goal? And then really you should break it down even further,
right,
and say, what do I need to do week to week? What are the things that I need to be doing on a weekly basis? And then break it down to a daily basis from there.
Yeah.
And that's really how you kind of set goals in a manageable way, so that you can get to that. And it works with really large goals, things that you want to accomplish over a year. And it works with smaller goals too. I mean, if you have a huge task or project that you need to accomplish this week at work, break it down. And also, little tip, if you break a larger goal or project down into more manageable bits and you task those out, you create a list. Every time you complete something off of that list, your brain gets a little hit of dopamine. You get a little hit to your reward center. And so that actually can be very motivating in keeping you on track and on task in fulfilling that daily goal, that weekly goal, that monthly goal, so on and so forth. Because every time you complete one step, one part of that journey, one smaller piece of it, it's leading to the whole, but you're rewarding yourself with those tasks being done and completed along the way.
That's some good stuff right there, y'all. I mean, dropping the bombs today, aren't they?
Trying to, right? That's why we're here, right?
I hear you.
Hopefully help someone out, maybe with their resolutions or something like that. Or maybe, and I think a lot of times we all think, well, hey, I got to wait till New Year's to start doing this. Why don't you start doing it now?
Yeah.
There's no better time than now.
That's right.
To do something, right? So it's like one of those things, and, going, with the business or, me as more personal aspirations, kind of with Nick, it's always like kind of building on Nick's point earlier was about, a lot of goals is like someone's like losing weight. I want to lose weight. And when you leave it vague like that, right? I want to lose weight. Well, what does that mean? You lose like 100 pounds, 5 pounds, 10 pounds, or do you just kind of tone up a little bit, or do you just change? So it's about changing your thinking of exactly what you want to do. Or with work, right? Like if it's if you're doing sales and you're like, man, I really need to start outputting some more sales, right? I need to start doing some more stuff. So my ultimate goal is this many sales. How do I break it down? How do I do all that stuff? That's really great. That's really important to kind of break it down. And it also lets you understand, what do I actually need to do to accomplish this goal? And that's what really helps you kind of, And similar with like Nicole saying is you break down these little goals and you're like, man, I did this one this day. Man, I feel good. It's all momentum. That's all it's about. It's about taking one step forward, boom, 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 boom. Because then once you take many steps forward, you're done. Yeah. You look back and you're like, wow, I'm really glad I did this. And I'm really glad I went down this route and I pushed myself a little bit, you know.
So did you guys have any, even you, Nick, did y'all have any goals this year for 2022 that you guys, I guess, set at the beginning of the year to where you were, we're approaching the end of the year and you were like, hey, I hit that goal this year and I'm super excited for it, whether it's a small goal, a big goal, a personal goal, a business goal. Have y'all had any of those this year?
I mean, personally for me, one of my things I took from last year is, we did all this lifestyle change and things like that. And this year was more, I wanted to just focus on, this is going to sound so cliche, but just more myself and more working on myself in the sense of how can I just be a better person and a better friend and a better husband, right? I just want to just be better this year. Because, right, like the year before I, did a big lifestyle change, became vegan, and then I lost like a bunch of weight in that time. And then now it's like, this year is like maintain it, but also how can I just be a little better this year, right? And that's kind of what I'm doing now. Now it's no setting in goal. What's funny is for this, I didn't really have a set goal last year at the beginning of 2022. But definitely for this year, that's when the goals are starting to kick in. I know, with Nicole and I, we have a house, right? And there's a lot of tasks that need to be done. And there's a lot of stuff happening.
Is there a honey-do list, Nicole?
Oh, yeah. It's a mile. It is a mile long. And there's stuff that always needs to be organized and done and, around the house. And then there's the big projects that, you have to really plan out and either pay for or, hire somebody. And that's always a fun headache to tackle. But, we've definitely gotten some things. I think there were some things on our to-do list in regards to, the home and some things we needed to upkeep this year that we got accomplished, and some organizational things that I personally had some goals that I set for getting certain rooms done in my house, certain things set up and organized to better function. And, through a lot of getting on and off track and having to start and restart, eventually it got done throughout the year. So, I think that this coming up year, though, is going to be a huge year as far as getting things accomplished for us with the house, just because of, this past year was not with inflation and everything like that. It was just kind of, we were feeling more comfortable in a holding pattern.
Yeah, you get someone to come out and do a quote, and they're like, "Hey, that's going to cost you $50,000," and you're like, "That's about $30,000 more than what I expected." You're like, I basically started going on YouTube now, and I'm like looking at
how can I do this myself?
Yeah. How can I really do this myself, right? And and I guess one wasn't necessarily like a set goal, but back to like, one thing with organizing our house was one thing, and I'm sure everyone can be there. I really need to organize my garage. I really needed to figure, because like our garage was fine, but it really didn't function for our storage needs and things like that. Yeah. So I saw one of my problems, set a goal was reorganize this garage. It was fine. It was workable, but we needed something that better fit for our situation. Yeah. So basically, the big goal was just organize the garage. And yes, that sounds vague, but I know, hey, I need to rearrange where my gym is versus where my workshop area is. I need to figure out a better way for the laundry area to stay neater. I need to figure out a better spot where we have an extra bay just kind of open. We have like just an open spot there. And how do I better organize all the lawn stuff that I need, like shelving unit, like get everything back in its home where it needed to be, right? So basically, we had to do a clean sweep. We took everything out, put it in the driveway, reorganized everything, went through stuff, threw out old stuff, and it stunk. It's really not fun to have to do that stuff, right? But you want to know what? As soon as we were done, we look back and go, how silly were we a week ago?
We're like, so much better this way. Why did we not do this before?
We lived in this house. We've been living in this house for like 7-8 years now. Right. Like, this is so much better.
Now every time I walk in my garage, I'm like, why was it not like this from the beginning?
Right. And I feel like you can, like, about anything you can feel like that. Like, when you just have these dreams and you're not making them goals and you're not taking these steps to achieve them. And then when you finally, like, put the time in to do it, and you get there, you're just like, I could have done this 5 years ago. Like, what was I thinking? Like, man, that was not as bad as I thought. I think sometimes, like, when it's in our head, it's just so far out there. Like, we you know, it's so scary. It's so daunting. There's so much. But when you make it a goal, when you take those baby steps and those small steps, then you see that progress. You're like, man, I'm getting there. Like, in your garage, I'm sure, like, once you organize one corner, you're probably like, oh man, this is going to be good. You know, and then you keep, so you're like, and that motivates you. Now I want to organize this corner. Now I want to go take care of the laundry area. Now I need to get the home gym in. And then so you keep getting those wins, and then you see the final product. You're like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah, you're like, I couldn't even believe how we used to have it. It's like you got to organize it, and I was like, oh, now I can see if I put in upper shelving up here, I can fit all these bins in there now. And it starts reorganizing everything for you, and it just makes it so much more easier to digest in a sense, right? And here's a saying that my mom always told me that I love to talk about. What's the greatest way to eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I know it's very obscure, and but you got to think about it like that. You know, you have this big, daunting task, just one bite at a time. Yeah. You know, you just take the steps forward. Like we talked, it's that momentum that you build, and then you just go from there, and then you just start rip-roaring through everything. Whether, you know, mine's my garage, right? Yep. And I attacked my professional career the same way, right? Yeah. What's the ultimate goal? Move up. What do I need to do? Hey, I need to come to work on time. Okay, start coming to work on time, right? Make sure I'm there. Make sure I'm dressed appropriately. You know, you start doing that stuff, and that boom, boom, build up that momentum. Boom, there. So yeah, no, it's really great.
So thinking of, you know, this episode's dropping right before the new year. People are setting their New Year's resolutions. Chris and I, we used to work at the Y, and one the times that I couldn't stand the most at the Y was January, because all these extra people started coming, because everybody gets a membership and everybody's trying to come to the gym because their New Year's resolution is to lose weight. And you know, I just got to stick it out till mid-February. Yes. Like, it's going to be crazy till about mid-February, but in mid-February, everyone's going to quit, and we're going to go back to our normal numbers. The parking, I'll be able to get my parking space again, and all that kind of stuff. Right. And so, what advice do you guys have to make sure you don't forget about or drop your goals just a few months in?
It is very easy to do that.
It is.
Well, I think that, you know, as far as breaking down your larger goal into more manageable tasks, that step right there is going to help, because you're going to have things that you have set for yourself on a monthly, weekly, or even daily basis that you need to accomplish. So it's just holding yourself accountable to get through those daily or those weekly tasks. And, you know, obviously, you know, when you're talking about goal setting personally or professionally, if you're doing it in an intentional way, you know, and you're writing things down, which, let's be realistic, like I can have all these goals in my head, but if I don't write down what I want to accomplish, define that, and then put on paper the steps that I need to take to get there, how am I going to hold myself accountable? What am I going to use to measure my success? So, you know, definitely writing it down, and then definitely breaking things down into daily and weekly tasks that you are checking off of that list. It's going to help you with staying on track.
Yeah.
Does that list keep you accountable for your goals that you have set? Or is it, I'm totally for, I need an actual person to keep me accountable for said goals.
I gotcha.
And you know what? That's a really great point, Chris, because sometimes it does, like, you know, I can set myself a goal, and I'm kicking myself if I didn't do the things that I need to do to get there at the end of the week. I'm definitely kicking myself, but there's nothing like the embarrassment of having to tell somebody else, well, I didn't do all of the things that I was, you know, supposed to do, and I have, you know, XYZ reasons or excuses why, but ultimately, you know, yes, life happens and we can all be understanding, but ultimately I didn't get there because I didn't do the things that I needed to do, that I set out as tasks for myself. So, you know, for some people, like for me, I kick myself. Like I'm, you know, harder on myself, I think, than, and I think a lot of people are that way. But I think when it comes to personal goals, having an accountability partner can be helpful, because I think in our professional careers, most of us are are a little bit harder on ourselves than maybe our bosses and supervisors and things like that are. But personally, I know it's very easy to slack off there and kind of not hold yourself accountable. So having an accountability partner can, I think, really help for certain people and in certain situations.
That's huge for me. Like I know there's a lot of, especially like you said, the personal ones for sure. I need someone right there holding me accountable. But I think sometimes even in business, like if you're if there's somebody that you're like in the same field or something like that, like I know Chris and I both work in real estate, and so we have shared some goals with each other and like, hey, let's help hold each other accountable to that. And it's not like there's like oh, you're going to get fired if you don't do this. But, to know someone is going to be like asking you about it or checking in or seeing how you're doing, you're like kind of like, hey, we're in this together. So if I don't uphold my end, I might be letting somebody else down. That can definitely motivate you to keep on going for sure.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, I know all y'all personally, but when you don't know other people, it's harder to take that advice. So when you know them, just let them talk. Like your friends aren't trying to like bamboozle. Now I hear some messed up stuff on like Ricky Lake or something like Jerry Springer, if that's even on what friends do. But if you trust the person enough to talk to them about the goals, I think you would trust them enough to take some input from them.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
So that just someone that you trust, right? Because I want more people, or not I want it, but like if you're going to ask people to be accountable, then be held accountable. When someone brings it up, don't be like, oh, well, Sally, you're not funny or you're not nice. That wasn't, it's like, well, no, you asked that person to hold you accountable. That's what you want to do.
Yeah, and I think another thing too that can be helpful is to find somebody that doesn't necessarily have the same weakness that you have, because then it could be easier for them to not hold you accountable, to kind of give in to your excuses, and so it's someone you can trust and someone that kind of has like the expertise of like whatever it is that you need to be held accountable to. There are certain like business goals that I might not ask my wife to hold me accountable to because she's not the most knowledgeable person about those things. But then there's certain personal things that I might not ask my boss or a coworker to hold me accountable to, and my wife might be a lot more helpful in those things. And so I think kind of knowing what it is you need to be held accountable for and trying to find people that are strong in those areas to help hold you accountable.
That's great. That's a great point.
Yeah, and like you said, the trust is a huge thing.
Well, and kind of echoing what you were saying though, if that person is actually knowledgeable in it, what's nice is they can actually give you good feedback, right? So if you're like, hey, I really want to fix this part of something with whatever whatever your goals are planned, if they know a lot about it, they actually can give you the advice. Well, hey, maybe you look at it this way, or handle. They can actually give you some actually like constructive criticism input that can really help you take that that next step that you need to get. Because kind of back to what Nick was saying about when you're at the gym and you're there, here's February, March, all we know. All the people leave from their resolutions, right? But if you have someone that can kind of help give you that push, that little bit of like, hey, just maybe change this out a little bit or do this a little, and you're like, you want to know what? It's much more enjoyable now. It's all about perspective. You get like new set of eyes, right? What is it, master or not, or what is it? It's not about what you know, it's who you know. Yeah. So if you can know more people and do certain things, there's gonna be a lot of sayings.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So Nicole, I hate to do this to you, but you're going to have to sit this next part out because you've already answered these questions on a previous episode. So if you want to hear Nicole's answer to these questions, you need to go back and listen to episode number 2.
It's okay. I think Joe will be okay with talking during this part.
So Joe, I'm expecting a lot of sayings here.
I might have used them all.
I'm throwing the softball to you to smack out of the park.
Does he know these questions?
We emailed them to him. But what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Okay. So one of the best pieces of advice I received personally was the saying I told you about: the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. And that was from my mother. And also, this was not said to me personally, but for some reason it really resonates really strongly. I really like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Really big. When I was a kid, Pumping Iron with Arnold was a big thing. That movie that came out, the book, all this stuff.
Was he the one on SpongeBob?
If you could see him, if you guys could see
Arnold's,
him.
The Terminator? You asked, your reference was SpongeBob? The Terminator. The Guffinator. True Lies. I guess maybe he's on it. I guess is he a character? But basically, I was, of course, really into him. And he basically, he had an autobiography, Total Recall. And I listened to it, book on tape, you know. Hey, trying to grow myself, right? And I was listening to it, and he basically said that there's 24 hours in a day. What are you doing with those 24 hours? And I don't know why that just, like, hit. He was explaining about how he first came to the country, and United States, because he was a big bodybuilder in Austria, and someone saw him, brought him in. He's learning English. He's going to school. He's trying to become an actor. And trying to make his way, you know, trying to get the American dream for himself. And he always talks about, you know, there's 24 hours in a day. How are you spending those 24 hours, right? So that's just something with me that kind of struck a chord that really helped me think, like, kind of put stuff in perspective. Like, okay, yes, I can sit on my phone in front of the couch, which I love to do. I love to do that. But
Is that true, Nicole?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. After a long day, when it's been a rough one, I mean, I think we're all guilty of that once in a while.
Exactly. And you want to know what? And that's okay, right? Because that's helping my life bar, right? That's filling my joy.
You're pouring back into your own bucket.
Heck yeah.
Look at you.
There you go. Look at that. You got another saying, too. Did she say the bucket thing last time?
No, I said that earlier. Were you not listening?
Well, no, of course I was listening.
This is my life, you guys.
I'm sorry, y'all. We are not licensed counselors.
Tales of what it's like to be married to an adult with ADHD.
Squirrel. But yeah, so that was one saying that really just resonated with me because it was like such a simple way of breaking it down without being like so in my face or like, hey, you're a loser. It's not like I'm a loser if I do this or say I build Legos. Like sometimes I like to spend like an hour or two just building a Lego set, just like let my mind wander, listen to some music. So it's like, you know, just how are you spending your time, right? Because that's the only difference between all of us is how we're spending our time. Like, yeah, I mean, I like to think I could be a bodybuilder or something like that, but I'm not going to spend all that time. That's a lot. That's really, you know, that's a lot of dedication. That's a lot of discipline. Or become a professional athlete. That takes a lot of work.
Right.
So, like, for me, it's just, yeah.
Well, I like what you said because just because you're sitting on the couch playing a video game or just because you're building a Lego set doesn't necessarily mean that's a terrible thing to do. Like, could it be? Like, yeah, but like if there's intentionality behind that of like, hey, I've spent all these hours in my day doing this and I need 30 minutes to an hour to recharge. So I'm going to sit on my couch and play some video games.
Boom.
Then, you know, yes, you're not wasting that hour. There was some intentionality behind it. But like if you're not focusing on what am I doing with my time and what is the purpose of what I'm doing with my time, that's when you can run into wasting a ton of time.
Well, and also kind of how his saying works too. Like, you know, I can go, well, hey, Jim next door, why has he got all this stuff? Why is he, you know, I can kind of look to other people. It's like, it kind of takes the emphasis out of, I can't point fingers anymore. You know, you point one finger, there's three pointing back at you. Another saying. Boom. And then, and you know, it's one of those things where it kind of helps you refocus, like, what am I doing? Am I really utilizing all 24 hours of my day? Am I doing the best I could do? And yeah, that's just, you know, one of those things, just kind of how it really resonated with me. And really, you know, I was thinking today about stuff and I was like, I know this is going to sound so cheesy, bring this one up, but I go, I just love it. I just, something about it, whenever I hear it, when I heard him say it, I was like, it's beautiful. Exactly how I feel.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, the second question that we have for you is, what is one thing that you do every day to help better yourself?
Laugh.
That's good.
Enjoy. Like, right? At the end of, you know, I mean, not to get all philosophical, I guess this was more about goal setting.
No, bring it.
You know, for me, it's like just laugh, enjoy, and like just be the best you can be.
I think to provide a little elaboration, I think you just, maintaining a positive mindset, focusing on the good things rather than the negative. I think that, by laughing and having, that positive outlook and just obviously being married to you, I know that that's something that, you try to be optimistic prime. So that's, yes.
I love it.
So, I mean, and that's definitely something that you can utilize every day to help you, be better. Because if you're trying to stay in the affirmative, right, rather than the negative, that's...
I feel like it's a better way because it also helps those around you.
Yes.
As well.
It's like an energy, right? You give it off and then people are more relaxed. Things are just better,
Well, it's a choice. I mean, waking up, on the right side of the bed every day is more intentional than people realize, I mean, and that can be said for a lot of things in our lives, right? Choosing gratitude, looking at the positive things in life. That's you have to choose to do that, and you have to work at it because it's not easy. Because life is hard, and I think we can all agree that no matter who you talk to in this world, they've had their setbacks and their struggles in life, and you never know what somebody is going through. So setting that type of positive intention can be very, very difficult, and you have to work at it. And I think that that's what he taught me was, waking up like that in the morning every day it's a choice.
That's awesome. So we've given you hopefully some tips and tricks and tools to go set some goals. So as you're thinking about your New Year's resolutions out there, it is important to set those goals. So set those goals, set some deadlines, find some people that can help hold you accountable to those things, and then go crush your goals. But thank you guys for listening. As always, please rate, review, subscribe. We hate saying it. Remember, 5-star reviews. If you've got a 1-star review, send it to Dustin@GarnerChamber.com. And we will talk to you guys in a few weeks. Thank you, Nicole and Joe, for hanging out with us.
Anytime.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you guys.
Happy
Can't
New
wait
Year's,
to do
guys.
it again. Happy New Year's.
Look at me, I can say it now because I've heard it 5 million times recording and editing this podcast.
Say it again.
Davis Financials and Insurance. No, sorry. Davis Insurance and Financial Services, comma,
Nailed it.
Inc. LLC.
Yeah.
Inc. Yeah.